everybody, and welcome to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Well, friends, you know at 180 Markets, we always want to be on what is a great trend in the commodity market, and that is the case certainly in the form of silver. But not only that, we want to form a view with a sector theme, but also specifically with a company that can express that view in a very, very meaningful way. And I can't think of a better way than a company that has transformed itself in circa the last 90 days or so. And I am talking about Black Bear Minerals, because the company has acquired a silver project in one of the most prolific areas of southern Texas / northern Mexico. And here to talk all about it is also a new member of the team, CEO Dennis Lindgren. Dennis, with that introduction, welcome.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thank you to your listeners for having me on.
Great. Hey, Dennis, this is a big move from you because you came from the large multinational conglomerate Alcoa. What made you come to Black Bear?
Yeah, that's a good question, Greg, and one that I get quite often. I think there's benefits in both type of opportunity. The opportunities I've had in the large multinationals has given me the ability to look at a lot of different projects, to be able to look at how a project needs to actually be developed from greenfields to brownfields, how it needs to be expanded and grown, and also a lot of emerging markets. So a particular focus in recent years has been looking at some of those obscure markets, more the critical mineral spaces, and also some of those byproducts projects. So getting the opportunity to actually look at one bespoke market, and we're talking here about silver, but also gold and our lithium assets. I feel that I can put a little bit more focus into what is a really interesting sector, an emerging sector, and kind of leverage my experience to be able to put it all in onto one particular organization.
Excellent. Well, Dennis, if we back up, as I said, not very long ago, only around the end of September, I believe, it's September 2025 for those of you, the company put out a circa 100-page announcement. Now, it's not often that companies put out a 100-page announcement, but in this case, there was a reason for it. Tell us about the acquisition of the Shafter Silver project.
Yeah, so Black Bear Minerals, which was formerly James Bay Minerals, acquired the silver Shafter, or the Shafter Silver project, based out of Texas. It's right on the border of Mexico, and we put forward an announcement off the back of some firm commitments from sophisticated and professional investors to do a two-tranche placement of about $30 million to be able to purchase this asset. So the Shafter Silver project, it's located in Presidio County, Texas, in the US, which is actually on the northern extension of the eastern, what we call the Sierra Madre Belt, which is one of the largest silver producing regions, and most typically it's associated with the Mexican side of the operation. Right. The Shafter deposit contains silver, lead, zinc deposits within a carbonate sequence. And it's representing an area across the US-Mexico border that really hasn't received that much attention compared to its counterparts in Mexico. What's really interesting about the Shafter Silver project is that it has been mined historically.
Yes.
It's come with some existing infrastructure, and it also comes with a foreign mineral resource estimate, which is about 17.6 million ounces at a really high grade of 289 grams a tonne silver. So, given the current market conditions, it has a lot of potential for future expansion and exploration, but also to explore that historical operation and how we can kind of leverage that.
Right. And Dennis, I have to ask, do you view the project as more of a restart with upside growth potential than really a green or a brownfields type of project?
I think we look at it for both. So as an ASX listed exploration company, we really want to focus on the traditional growth that you would see with any asset. And so that's looking at, where this historical data may show mineralization or where there's step outs from the existing resource to really define and look for resource expansion. So I think that is always a primary focus, and is the focus of the prospectus that was raised in purchasing Shafter. But you can't really ignore the fact that it operated as near as 2015.
Right.
It has an estimated $150 million worth of infrastructure in place, including mills, Merrill Crowe systems, and of course the underground workings that allow for us to consider how quickly could you develop an asset such as this. So from our perspective, it's kind of a primary focus on making sure that the grade and the resource really are there to support the asset, and then we can look at the opportunity of what's happening within the macro environment and how this existing infrastructure could really support that, particularly within the US.
Right. And Dennis, do you feel that the project, as you said, it is a relatively recent producer, and it appears that the production was cut purely on the price of silver back, say, 10 years ago, but now that's obviously changed.
Yeah, I would say not purely cut just on the price of silver. I do think
Okay.
that the operation. One benefit we have of being an ASX listed producer is we do actually have access to some really good mining capability. So when we look at this asset, we look at the type of capability you need to not just run it at a set price, but run it effectively and efficiently as possible. So from my perspective, I think that the price is a really big component, and you can't ignore that. We're sitting at, I think, at $60 $60 for silver at the moment for an ounce. But back then historically, I think they were down near the $18 mark. When they were going into ceasing operations that really kind of affected how they could actually produce from that. So considering that in the existing PEA, it provides us a really good opportunity within the current market to actually assess the economics of this project going forward.
Right. And do you feel, I guess, backing up against your Alcoa experience and your skill set, managing what really could be a production play and many different byproducts as well, as you alluded to earlier on, does that background help?
Yeah, so look, I've had diverse sector experience. I started off as an environmental scientist, as an
Okay.
undergraduate, before moving into operations, and that's the running of not just refineries, but broad scale mine, open pit, underground. So have worked across those diverse sectors, and you kind of really have to understand what do you need to piece together. What's the fabric that makes a really good site? Exploration, of course, is that initial piece. It's what defines the resource and what you have available to you. But then there's the next steps. It's the permitting, making sure that the infrastructure is in place and that you have the redundancy to operate it efficiently. And then you need the right team to, of course, be able to operate that to maximum effect. So having that experience in the background of what does a good operation look like, and what's the capability you need to piece together to do that, it puts me in a really good position to understand not just the Shafter asset, but also our Independence Gold asset up in Nevada, which is also at the similar point of defining that resource, but then considering where could it develop its infrastructure going forward in the future. So yeah, I feel like, Greg, that I'm in a pretty good position.
Yeah.
I often say to the guys, we look at a lot of projects when we work in the multinationals. You're assessing everything, all of the commodities, because you have such land holdings.
Right.
You get to understand what is a really good project and what are has the right puzzle pieces to fit together. And that's what kind of gets me really excited about these opportunities, is that when you can see a clear pathway of some puzzle pieces that need to be resolved and can fit together, you can see a really good potential for not just exploration and expansion of that resource, but also the potential to have a really good operating asset in a jurisdiction that's pretty well unknown. So get quite excited about that, Greg.
Right. Great. Hey, Dennis, speaking of being excited, we can see it on your face there. For investors, it's all about the future. What are the next 12 months? What would be your idea of success, and what are the catalysts for the company?
Look, I think for me, initially it's of course getting some of the site works to occur within Shafter. So I'll speak about Shafter first, and then I might also touch on Independence as well. But it's the Shafter, really. It's the drilling commencement, the extensional, and the infill. And so we are pretty keen to make sure that we can make that happen as soon as possible, and have a well thought out plan through 2026 to undertake drilling scope. From my point of view, really understanding the advanced permitting of both of the sites. So Independence sits within the Phoenix Mine Complex and adjacent to Newmont's NGM project. And so has historical EIS studies done within the jurisdiction. So there is opportunity there to leverage the existing work and expand and kind of extend off that. For Shafter, it's already partially permitted, and there's effectively just looking at what do we need to do to make sure that everything is brought into good standing, and then it's more of a focus on the existing infrastructure, looking at potential dilapidation reports of how that infrastructure could be brought into good standing, and what does it look like to operate the site going forward. But I would say for Shafter, the initial focus is always on that extensional and infill drilling at this point in time. We would like to, of course, in 2026, get to that maiden JORC resource. I think for ASX investors and our shareholders, that's always a significant step. And then also for Independence, it's about looking at scoping studies to actually bring on infrastructure and to look at how could we operate that facility going forward in the future. So lots of catalysts, I would say, in 2026 to bring both assets into a good position.
Right. And Dennis, we spoke offline about permitting. Permitting is always an issue with the mining companies, and you've mentioned it here. Any issues that we should be looking out for, or any milestones again as for investors?
Look, I think for milestones for Shafter, it is just confirming that the site is fully permitted.
Right.
And we typically want to be a bit conservative about that. We want to make sure that all of the renewals and relevant applications are in place, and that we do have the relevant permits available before we say that it's fully permitted and we can move forward. So I think that's a significant catalyst you would want to look for, because that really is what unlocks our ability to consider the existing infrastructure that's on site. For Independence, it's just about understanding, the baseline studies that need to be completed to put in the relevant permitting, but then also, how we can leverage the current macro environment. So that's the current administration, whether it's state or federal policies, to support in kind of expediting that project through its permitting. There's a lot of good opportunities in the US at the moment. There's a really big focus on US domestic assets. And what we want to do is make sure that we can explore those opportunities and look for the best path forward to develop both assets. So they're probably the main catalysts I would call out at the moment, Greg.
Right. And also, and for Shafter, you are on the Texas side, is that correct? But obviously commodities themselves, they don't know legal boundaries, if you will. But just to confirm for all investors, this is in the USA.
It is, yes. So it's based in Texas, so Presidio County. So it is right on the border, effectively, near Mexico, and is an extension of that existing resource that most people would be quite familiar with. Right.
And Dennis, I know it's early days, but you have I believe it was even last week, you've gotten back some grab samples. Are these encouraging?
Very well, very much so. Yeah, we've actually had two announcements. So some are they're the rock chip samples that we've taken, preliminary from the site with some really high grades that have been popped up during those rock chip samples. And so that's just confirming, if there's near surface mineralization, and also confirming the potential of opportunities to step out or to infill. The other exciting ones that we announced was grab samples associated with the waste stockpiles. The reason why you always like waste stockpiles is that it's a really early opportunity to potentially consider processing something that's readily available. You can take it without having to go into the let's say to develop the mine. You can actually access those things to get your infrastructure started. And there's actually quite considerable stockpiles at the Shafter site, given its historical operation. And again, those showed that there was probably a bit selective on what silver they took in the past, and we got some high grade samples that effectively came from the waste stockpiles as well.
Right. And it's just about, I guess, going back to the real true economics of a project is that you want to maximize. It's not just purely about exploration in itself, is it?
No, it's about the whole picture, and that's effectively why we invest the time in understanding and defining the resource further. The existing foreign mineral resource estimate's not something to be overshadowed. It is a really high grade, and it's a good start for a project such as this. But we believe strongly in the potential of further mineralisation, but also waste stockpiles that allow for us to kind of fill in the picture of how would you operate this site and how would you do that economically to kind of bring that forward into the future.
Right. Dennis, it takes a village, as the expression says, to really bring something to fruition. Can you talk to us a little bit about the team on the ground?
Yeah, so we have a number of people who support. So we've got Jay Ward, who's our exploration manager, who is supporting with understanding, where is the primary targets and wading through that historical information. I didn't touch on it so much before, but in addition to the infrastructure, there is extensive drilling that has been completed in the past, and some of it has been assayed, some of it hasn't. In some instances, its primary focus was silver and not those multi-commodities that you may see that are available as well. And so he really takes the lead in understanding and where do we need to build our exploration plan through to 2026. We have Alex, who's based out at site. He's an exploration geologist, has great experience in gold, base metals, and critical minerals in Australia, and so a really strong geology team. We also have site managers who have been associated with the Shafter project for well over 20 to 30 years, so multi-decades, who understand what was done in the past, how the infrastructure operated, the lessons learned about where to go and not to go, and really provide us a clear picture of where we can put some preliminary targets and kind of focus our attention going forward. So a really, really good site team that's supporting us, and pretty excited as to the number of opportunities that we see kind of popping up.
Right. And Dennis, this is so important, having the right people on the ground, especially with managing projects from a distance. And it's maybe something that is somewhat overlooked by investors because you can't necessarily quantitatively measure it.
Yes. Yeah, it's always a difficult thing, and I think I touched on it before. Is that a lot of people can focus just on the resource definition to evaluate a project, but the management team, we didn't touch on it, but effectively not just the on-site team, but our management team has significant experience in being able to develop projects. Not just myself in the multinationals. But also, understanding the financial environment, but also the contract environment, as well as development of existing projects in Australia and also broader. So, having that mix of people that actually can understand what needs to happen to put those puzzle pieces together, it brings you a long way forward. So I would always say to investors that's the two critical things you look at. You look at of course the resource and also the site itself and the jurisdiction, but and a good effective management team that brings this thing forward is always a really good highlight for an organisation, which is what I see here in Black Bear Minerals as well.
Right, Dennis, you're talking about a great project, great people. Another part of the equation is money, is capital. Just tell us a little bit about the state of the balance sheet.
Yeah, so I did touch on that effectively we had undertaken that $30 million placement recently. And so we are well funded to support the acquisition of the project. Post the raise, we had about 34 million in bank. 17 million of that was in transaction costs, and so we have a remaining about 17 million to spend across the projects. From our perspective, 80% of that placement is really going towards the exploration of those assets,
right.
And we keep a really lean, a lean structure to be able to make sure that the focus is where it needs to be, and that's on the Independence project and also the Shafter Silver project. So we're really excited that we've been able to complete the acquisition.
Yeah.
But in addition to that we've actually got the support and the capital to be able to develop and explore those assets further into 2026. So in a very good position, I would say, Greg.
Yeah, Dennis, we have to keep it short, but to recap, it's a brand new acquisition. You're brand new to the company. You're in the right commodity. Any closing comments for the audience? Would you want everyone to know about Black Bear going forward?
I think my honest view for investors and shareholders going forward is that this is a really great opportunity. Being present within the US domestic pool of projects within the current critical mineral environment. We didn't touch on it too much, but silver, it's not just price; it's actually the structural components that underpin that price, and particularly being within the US and being recently classified as a critical mineral puts us in a very, very good position to be able to explore these assets and to bring them forward. And so from my perspective, I'm really excited about the opportunity and very excited to go on the journey with our shareholders as we develop these assets further.
Dennis, thank you much for your time. Brand new, the right commodity, the right jurisdiction. We're very much looking forward to the next 12 months.
Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate all the questions.
Bye-bye.